Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. I am very excited to chat with you or talk to you this evening. Um, I'm going to turn my video off while I am speaking because and the internet is weird. So I will do that because you can look at this lovely presentation that I have put together. But I would like to say that if you have any questions as I'm going through this presentation, feel free to click on the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen and just send me a question there, and I will do my best to answer it at that moment or a little later on. And there will be an opportunity for questions at the end of the presentation as well. Yeah, so without further ado, we'll get into things. You can go to that next slide there. Perfect. So this is just a bit of an overview of what to look forward to this evening. I'll tell you a little bit about myself. We'll go over some of the movement guidelines, a few things there, and then we'll get into actual exercise demonstration. We can go to that next slide. Perfect. So who am I? Paulette did a lovely introduction for me. I have a lot of experience, having not done this for 20 years, only been in this for a few years. One of the main things that I want to highlight on this slide here is aging gracefully. That is a phrase I like to use with a lot of my clients. The majority, I would say 60% of the clients I work with are 40 plus, 40 to 85. So aging gracefully is a goal that a lot of people want and strive for. And so what that means for me and what I try to work with my clients with, obviously aging gracefully looks different for everyone. But the goals that I have with that for my clients is strength, endurance, functional mobility. So looking at activities of daily living, which I will talk about in a moment, staying active and independent as long as possible. And that's really the main goal of aging gracefully, is staying independent and active as long as you can. Going back to that child of daily living, those are things like carrying your groceries, bending down to pick something up off the floor, grandchild, a child of your own, something out of a low cupboard, or reaching above your head to grab something out of a high shelf. Those are just all things that we include in that sort of aging gracefully phrase. And that find your balance is a phrase that I like to use, not just in terms of physical balance, but also finding your balance in your lifestyle, in your physical fitness, in your nutrition, in what you're doing in your day-to-day life, as well as your physical activity. So that's just sort of a little catchphrase that I have. We can go to the next one. So I have these couple slides up here. So this is the Canadian 24-hour movement guidelines. They're brand new. So this is for adults 18 to 64. On the next slide, it's 65 plus. They're generally the same recommendations. You'll see on the next slide what's different. But basically what this is saying is for physical activity, you want to have at a minimum 150 minutes of moderate to vigorous physical activity, aerobic activity per week, which equals about 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week, or you can break it up even further into 10-minute increments 3 times a day, 5 days a week. And it's also recommending doing strength exercises 2 times a week, and several hours of light physical activity. So that includes standing. That basically what they're saying is movement throughout the day is the most important thing. We used to think that, oh, an hour of activity a day is good, but then you're sitting the rest of the day, and that's not necessarily a good thing. So what we've really come to realize is that movement throughout the day is as important as that hour or 30 minutes of dedicated physical activity. They also suggest 7 to 9 hours of sleep, of good sleep, with consistent bedtime and wake up times, and limiting your sedentary or your seated time to 8 hours or less. So less than 3 hours of screen time, like watching TV, playing on the computer, and then trying to break up your periods of sitting as often as possible. And I know, especially right now, this is a very challenging thing, because if you're working from home, you're probably sitting in front of a screen all day. But the recommendation, movement throughout the day, so do your best. And I will touch on that in a moment. I just got a question here. If you have a much higher light physical activity rate, does that make up for slightly less moderate aerobics? Or is it about getting the heart rate up? Processing your question here. So I'm interpreting this as if you're doing a lot of light physical activity, does that make up for doing less moderate to vigorous aerobics? I don't know if it necessarily makes up for it, but it's definitely better than nothing. So if you're doing a lot of light physical activity throughout your day, so you're moving around, you're standing, you're doing what you need to do, and you don't necessarily have that 30 minutes or hour a day to do moderate to vigorous, I think that is still acceptable. I think it also depends on what your goals are and what your focus is physically. Yeah, so it's kind of that fine line of, does it make up for it? It's definitely better if you can get those 150 minutes or more, but if your light activity is a little bit more intense, then that's definitely better. I hope I answered your question. If I did not, I apologize and ask it again, and I will do my best to answer it better for you. Oh, okay, perfect. Okay, we can go to that next slide. So this is the adults 65 plus. So it's basically the same recommendations. The only difference here is that it's, in addition to everything, they're also recommending balance exercises. And this is probably something that you already know, and something that we're going to touch on a little bit later in this talk. But just so you know, it's in the Canadian guidelines as well. And it's something that I think everyone should do, no matter their age, because it just gets worse as we get older. So if it's already in our routine, then there's less to worry about as we get older. So we can go to that next one. So essentially what it's saying is move more across your whole day, reduce your sedentary time, and sleep well, like this pup is in the photo here. Okay, so we can go to the next one. So the question could be, so how do I move more? How do I decrease my sedentary time? My suggestion, you could get a fitness tracker. There are tons of different things out there now. And they often have move, they buzz and they tell you to move, or it'll flash at you and give you that cue to get up and go, okay, I haven't moved in a while, I probably should. The other thing you can do is set a timer. And this sort of goes up with the next the next bullet point there. You basically, every hour of sitting, you want to get up and move around for at least 10 minutes. And I know that can be a challenge, especially at work, or if you're really focused on doing something. but it's definitely a good idea. Just gets everything moving. Again, focusing on that light movement throughout the day. So if you set a timer every hour to get up for 10 minutes, that can give you that trigger as well. So things like taking the stairs, walking around, moving in your space, in your home. You can do some jumping jacks if you really want to get your heart rate up, getting outside. Basically just things to get you moving for about 10 minutes. We can go to the next one. So how do I start exercising? This is a great question that often comes up when I'm working with new clients who have never exercised before. And it's always an interesting one. But the first thing I always say is start where you're at, start low and slow. So what that means is you're starting with lightweight and you're taking it slow. You're not increasing it drastically. If you're looking in terms of aerobic activity, you're looking more at that slow pace. So don't try and run 5K or 10K the first time since you've ran in, I don't know, 2 years or something or longer. Knowing that you can increase gradually, especially with weights. If you push too hard, if you go too heavy to start with, you can have injury, you can have issues. I haven't heard of anyone hurting themselves from starting too light or too easy, especially when we're working with form. So start where you're at, not where you were 5 years ago or where you want to be in 6 months. Next. Make it fun. And maybe some of you are rolling your eyes, but yes, exercise can be fun. You just have to make it fun. So first point here, we can go to that next one. Find something active that you enjoy, whatever that is to you. These are a few things that I enjoy myself. That also finding something that you enjoy that doesn't necessarily feel like exercise. When you can distract yourself from it, especially if exercise is something that you dread, find something fun to do instead that gets you active. And you often distract yourself from the fact that you're exercising. And then you realize later when your body's sore that you just did exercise. And we can go to the next one there. Something else, you can exercise with other people, not right now, but when normally you can exercise with family or friends. You can make it family time. You can do things. We're allowed to be outside with up to 5 people with masks and everything. So take your dog out for a walk or just go for a walk with a friend. Zumba, swimming, hiking. You can go hiking at Birds Hill. There's opportunities to be active, and even online opportunities to exercise with other people, even if they're not in your space. You can queue up an exercise, a workout, and have your friend online with you. So lots of opportunities to get you going. Go to the next one. How do I get or stay motivated? This was a question that came up from the survey, so thank you to whoever asked that question. It's one that I personally get a lot, and also trainers get a lot. And it's a tough question to answer because it's so individual to every person. There's unfortunately no blanket answer saying, oh yes, do this and you will be motivated forever. So some suggestions that I have that can help with motivation. First one being find ways to stay accountable. So things like hiring a personal trainer, texting your friend when you're going to start your exercise, writing it down, making a plan. I often suggest putting it in your calendar because then you have it in there and then you have to do it, right? I have clients, when I suggest this to them to put it in their calendar, they say, okay, yeah, I'm going to put it in and I'm going to say gym time with Carlyn. because then I have to show up. And if I don't, then I'm letting you down. And even if we don't actually have a session, it's just that reminder of, okay, I'm going to do exercise now and I'm staying accountable. Or sometimes I'll even have clients texting me, telling me, okay, I went to the gym today. I went to the gym 4 times this week, and it's great. It keeps them accountable and keeps me updated on their progress as well. Next thing you can do, mix it up, try new things. If you're bored of what you're doing, you're going to lose motivation. So picking one of those things off that fun activities list that you enjoy, finding something online. YouTube has so many options. You could probably look up anything and find a video on, I don't know, a dance video, or I don't have great examples for that, but you could probably find anything that you'd be interested in, and you could try something new on there, or just switch up what you're doing. And the last thing on here, setting SMART goals. So that SMART stands for specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. Basically what that means is, or a good example of that, you want to run a 5K race or 5K fun run, and you haven't run ever, and your goal is 6 months. Okay, so that's specific. You want to run a 5-kilometer run. It's measurable, 5 kilometers. Is it achievable? Perhaps. It depends on the person, but that could be an achievable goal. And is it realistic? It kind of goes in with that achievable thing. But again, it depends on the person. And it's timely because it has an end date. And you can set all these different kinds of SMART goals, short-term, long-term, short-term being a few months, a couple of weeks, long-term being, 6 months, a year, or further. It can be really great with weight loss goals. The other thing that, another example of this is how many times someone wants to exercise in a week. And when I do consults with new clients, and the question I like to ask is, how many times a week do you want to be exercising, or do you want to be in the gym? And they'll often give me an amount or a number of times that sometimes I think they want me to, that they think I want to hear. But so they give me something like 3 to 4, 4 to 5 times a week. And then my next question is that realistic for you? And sometimes the answer is yes, because they've been in the gym and they just want some more training. They want a little extra experience. And sometimes that's my goal. And I say, great, that is a great goal. But right now, let's start where you are, going back to that. So setting SMART goals can help you stay motivated as well to get to where you want to be. Next one. So what does a personal training session look like? Well, it's different for every trainer, but I will give you a little insight into what a session with me can look like. So it depends on your goals. It depends what you're looking for. But typically, we'll start with some kind of warm up. Often it's a little bit of cardio. Even if that's at home, you're doing jumping jacks and high knees just to get your heart rate up. Or it's walking around a track a couple times, just something to get your heart rate up and moving. Some dynamic stretching. So a static stretch would be like a held stretch. And you don't want to do any prolonged hold stretches at the beginning of your workout. You want to do some nice moving stretches. You want to leave the static and held stretches for the end of your workout. Especially if you're going into strength training, which is often what most of my clients are looking for, no matter their age or experience. So that'll take up the bulk of our workout. So whatever we're focusing on that day. So upper body, lower body, we're doing a whole body mix. Again, whatever the goals are. And then I'll usually go into some postural or balance exercises, again, depending on the client. Not everybody wants these things, and some don't need it, so we don't go into that. But we always do core, focus on that six-pack, right? Nice, strong abdominals. It is what holds us up. It keeps us strong and stable. And then I like to finish off with some stretching, just to release all of what we did during the session that day. So kind of an overview of what a session could look like. Again, it depends on your goals. It depends on the individual, but generally that's what I like to work in. Next. And in my sessions, I always focus on safety first. That is my biggest concern. I want to make sure that you are being safe in whatever you are doing. And also that you're doing things properly with good form. I always take a personalized approach. Whatever we're doing in our session, it's not going to be what 10 other people have done before. It's going to be adapted and modified to the client that I'm working with, because everyone is different, every body is different, and everyone has little things that maybe they can or can't do. And I often find that part really fun, is adapting and modifying in a session. Yeah, so that's kind of my approach and my what a training session with me would look like or could look like. Going to that next slide. Personal training is for everyone. Some people think, oh, well, it's not for me because it's only for elite athletes who know what they're doing. And, oh, I can't work with a trainer because they're going to make me do burpees and crazy weight. And no, if that's the kind of trainer that that you've seen before, you should see a different trainer because they're not adapting to your needs. But yes, personal training is for everyone. You just have to find the right fit for you. As with anything in life, you have to find the right fit. We can go to that next one. So exercise and weight loss. Weight loss was a question that came up in the survey as well. So weight management is very important with hemophilia. We can go to that next point because it kind of ties into this first one. Having a lower weight can help to decrease the pressure on your joints, or even losing weight can help decrease the pressure on your joints. That can be associated with higher weight, with arthritis. You want to be in a good physical condition to have a much better quality of life longer into your 80s, 90s, and further, if further. Yeah, so it's important to have, especially with hemophilia. We'll go to that next point there. You want to pick one thing. And this is kind of the next point as well, that you can go to, Chris. There we go. So pick one thing to start with. If you're not doing anything right now, and you want to lose weight, or you want to be active, you want to be healthier, start with either exercise or a nutrition lifestyle change. Trying to do everything at once can be very overwhelming, and then can feel very daunting. And then that's often when you lose the motivation, you get off track, and then you're kind of back to where you're starting from. So pick one thing to start with, whichever one you feel like you have more control over, or you feel most comfortable with starting. Yes, I got your question. I will answer it a little bit later. There will be some demonstration of exercise, so I will get to you then. Yeah, so picking one thing that will work best for you at the time that you're starting. And I say nutrition lifestyle change, no diets. kind of tying into that motivation a little bit as well, but you want to go for healthy ways of changing your life and losing weight. If you go on a crash diet where you lose a whole bunch of weight in 30 days, chances are you will gain all of that back very quickly when you come off of the diet. So changing your lifestyle, changing your habits are going to serve you better in the long run. And then there's one more point here. Maybe it will come up. Well, I'll talk and Chris will figure it out. So focusing on other goals than just weight loss. Oh, lost. Okay, that's okay. I will talk about it. Focusing on other goals than just weight loss can also serve you better in the long run. So focusing on those SMART goals, building strength, so lifting a certain amount, or doing 10 push-ups, let's say, or running a certain distance, can actually get you to the weight loss in a more fun way, and also can be a distraction. And instead of focusing on, oh, I need to lose this weight, and focusing on those other goals, sometimes you can just lose the weight and you don't even realize it until you've lost some of it. So finding goals that aren't just weight loss can be more beneficial in the long run as well. We can go on to the next one. Okay, we're already at the demo here. So I'm going to show you some exercises that you can use. I'm going to, yes, I will answer that question, sorry. I'm going to demo this here, just take out my headphones. Okay, so I'm going to show you a couple different variations on squats. That is one that a lot of people like to do, especially at home. And all the exercises I'm showing you are ones that you can do at home, can be modified to home. So starting with squats, a typical squat, you want to focus on a few things here. You want to have your feet about shoulder to hip width apart. They can be wider, that's fine. I generally don't like them narrower than that. You always want to have a little bend in your knees whenever you're doing any exercises that you're standing. When you're doing your squat, you want to think about pushing your hips back first and then bending your knees. I find if you bend your knees first, they often end up over the toes like that, and that is no good. You're going to hurt yourself, and we don't want that. I would also like to preface this with, these aren't prescriptions. I'm not saying, yes, you absolutely should do all these exercises and you'll be super fit, but they are examples of exercises that you can do depending on your abilities and what you feel comfortable doing. And or what you've spoken with your doctor and or physio with. So just prefacing that with that as well. So yes, when you're doing your squat, push your butt out first and then bend your knees. And you don't need to go into a full 90-degree squat. Just go down as far as you feel like you've got some activation in your legs. And then you're going to come all the way back up and squeezing your butt when you get to the top. So you can do squats like that, just freestanding if you feel comfortable with that, making sure you're not arching your back too much. You want to keep your core nice and strong. I often like to have my arms out in front of me, just helps to counterbalance. Some variations with that, you can make it more challenging by adding some weight. So if you don't have dumbbells, kettlebells, actual weights, you can use household items up to the weight that you want. You can use a milk jug. I was using at one point a laundry detergent jug because that's what I had. Although that only works so well as you don't do your laundry, because then you run out of detergent. But yeah, adding some weights in different ways, holding it in front of you, holding a couple of them, whatever you want, and again, going into that nice squat. A variation on this, you can use a chair if you're feeling like, I'm not super comfortable with standing, I don't know how my form is going to be, I don't have someone to watch me and tell me, am I doing the right thing? So this is another recommendation that I use with my clients, where you can start seated, probably on a better chair than an office chair, but this will do the trick for now. And then you're lining your feet up just so that your knees are still behind your toes. And then you're getting up, standing, and you can go back into a squat position. You can touch down or fully sit back down. And that just gives you a little extra support when you're doing these. If you don't feel like you have the balance or stability to do a free standing squat. So that's those. Push-ups is another thing that lots of people like to do at home. So focusing on a few variations for this. You can do your regular from your toes. Finding my space in here. So you're doing your regular push-up. You can start at the top or the bottom. And clearly I'm not strong enough right now to do this, but that's okay. Basically, yeah, starting from your toes and your hands. You can modify it by going down to your knees. You can also adjust where your hands are placed, again, depending on your comfort level, where your elbows are going. You can go up against a higher surface if you feel like, I'm not quite strong enough to do this flat on the ground right now. So you can go up to a chair, you can go up to the wall and do your push-ups that way. And if you're feeling like, oh, Carlyn, these are still really easy, I know how to do push-ups, no problem. We can make it harder without adding weight or anything like that. You're just going to add time or resistance. And what I mean by that is you can do eccentric push-ups. So what that means, you can, you're going to go down into your push-up and then slowly come back up. So it's a quick down and slowly push up. So focusing on the eccentric movement of a push-up. Focusing on that eccentric movement of a push-up. More time under tension gives you more resistance, makes your muscles work harder in that position. So a few variations on push-ups. Now, if we're looking at balance, that was one thing that is important, as I mentioned earlier, and as we know is very important. So one tried and true balance exercise that I like to recommend to my clients is your single leg stance or your stork stance. So standing on one foot, crossing your arms across your chest, and holding that as long as you can. You can change where your leg is, whatever you want to do with that, as if your torso is staying up. If you feel like you don't have the balance or stability to hold that position without falling and hurting yourself, being near a wall or sometimes your kitchen countertops, finding a corner there to give yourself a little extra stability can be a good thing. If you find, okay, well, this is really easy, I'm standing on one foot, no problem. Well, let's make it harder then, and close your eyes. And again, just seeing how long you can hold it for. When we close our eyes, it throws off our proprioception. Our brains don't know where we are in space. And that definitely adds challenge to a balance exercise. And again, if you feel like you might fall and hurt yourself, finding somewhere that you can be safe, near a wall, near countertops, whatever, just finding a safe space to be. Another addition to that would be going up on your toes. Can't really see my toes right now. And doing the same thing, 1 foot off the ground on your tiptoes, and eyes open for this first time doing it. But yeah, just some variations on a one-leg stance. Another balance thing, depending on how comfortable you feel. And if you feel like your balance is really terrible and you have issues walking outside in the winter or on uneven surfaces, something that you can practice at home or when you eventually get back to the gym, if that's a place you go. You can roll up yoga mats, you can use pillows. And so for example, rolling up a yoga mat, putting it on the ground and walking like you're on a balance beam, arms out for that extra balance support. So just creating uneven surfaces for yourself in a controlled environment can also be very good for working on and testing that balance. Couple little core exercises, because we're giving you the whole general home exercises that you can do right now. So a couple core things. Plank is one of those main ones. It's the best core exercise you can do for your core. Nobody needs a six-pack. Some people really want it, and that's great. But a plank is the best exercise for your core because it focuses, your core is there to stabilize your body and stabilize you. And a plank does just that. It stabilizes and works those stabilizing muscles. So a couple things with planks. You can do it from your toes and your elbows. You can do it from your knees and your elbows. You can do it from your knees and your hands, your toes and your hands. You can get really creative and like lift a foot or lift an arm, whatever you want. Really testing your balance there for sure. So a couple options with that. And then one other one is the dead bug, which is another good stabilizer that you don't need arm strength for. So you're just lying on your back with your legs up, and this is going to look like a dead bug at some point. But you're taking your opposite arm and leg, and you're just extending them away from each other and bringing them back in, all the while keeping your ribs tucked down and your core engaged. And then you're going out doing both sides, alternating sides. Yeah, that one, to make it more challenging, you can put both arms above your head. To make it a little less challenging, you can just do your legs out at a time or just do your arms out at a time. The biggest thing to focus on with this is making sure your back isn't arching off the ground. So if you're feeling it in your low back, just not letting your leg extend down too far. You can extend it out, but not all the way down to the ground. It doesn't need to go all the way down. You just want to feel your core engaging there. Now onto some stretching. While I'm down here, I'll show you a couple on the ground. So our hamstrings, the muscles at the backs of our upper leg. Couple options with this. You can do a seated hamstring stretch. So one leg in, one leg out, and you're reaching as far as you can. If you're wearing shoes and you can't reach quite as far as your toes, you can reach for your shoelaces. You can use a rope for some extra assistance there if needed. Whatever you need to do just to get that nice stretch in the back of your leg. If that's too easy or you find you have issues with bending, you can also lie on your back and do the same kind of thing, where you're just using a rope, pulling your leg towards you, trying to keep that knee as straight as possible. Third option is you can do a seated hamstring stretch. And I'm sorry I'm going through these so quickly, but I can't gauge what everybody is understanding, of course. So I will I'll send an example of all of these to Christine and Paulette, and if you're interested, they can send them to you. But a hamstring stretch, seated hamstring stretch, your foot looks like that on the ground, and you're just bending forward. Or, again, if bending is no good, taking that trusty rope, or dog leash in this case, and just pulling your leg up. So no bending involved. If you find that you have a tight or sore low back, or just back in general, a couple options for that. One would be your child's pose, so a nice yoga pose. If you can get into this position, basically that's what my legs are doing. And I'm just reaching my upper body forwards to get into this nice relaxed stretch. A back stretch is more of a release than anything. It's not going to feel the same as a hamstring stretch or a calf stretch or anything like that, but it should feel like a nice release. Or your second option that I can recommend is lying on your back and pulling both knees into your chest. You can do a little roll around if it feels good. But this is a nice, I call it a back reset. So you're just resetting your back. If it's feeling no good, getting into this position, into that sort of fetal position can feel really good for it. Stretching out your quads, the front of your legs. This one can test your balance. So use the wall if you need to, but grabbing your foot and same arm, and you're pointing that knee straight towards the ground and standing up nice and tall. So you should be feeling a stretch through the front of the leg there. And if you need help with balance, holding onto the wall, or test it out and see how it goes safely. If you find you don't have the flexibility or the ability to grab onto your foot like I do, you can use a rope again. You can grab onto your shoe or your pant leg, whatever you need to do there. And one more for your upper body here. Your classic one arm across the chest, the other arm comes up behind and pulls towards. You can even take a little stretch away with your neck. And you're doing these on both sides, all these exercises that are single-sided. Your other option or another upper body stretch is going behind your head and pulling that tricep after those push-ups and planks. So those are some exercise options, depending on your ability again, and what you're comfortable with. If we can pull the slides back up, those are all the exercises and things that I wanted to demo. I will answer this question that has come up, that came up earlier. The question is there a type of exercise you believe would be better or worse to do as you age? And the example is Olympic lifting versus calisthenics. One seems like it would be much harder on your body. And you are correct. Olympic lifting is very challenging. It's something that I don't do primarily because I'm an amputee and it would be very challenging for me to do. But it's also not the kind of lifting or exercise that I enjoy to do. Calisthenics is definitely better on your body. But again, it's that same thing that I've been saying, that it really just depends on the individual. And if you have a lot of strength and you feel really comfortable and interested in Olympic lifting, you could hire a qualified trainer to show you how to do that and start you very light, and you could build up the strength to be able to do that. So there could be exercises that are worse depending on all the things going on in your body, whether that's hemophilia and 4 other things or 1 other thing, or it's, you have arthritis, or you've got a sore back that kind of always hurts, or whatever the case may be. It's so dependent on the individual. I always recommend weight-bearing exercises as long as possible, like using strength tools, dumbbells, barbells, etc. And doing yoga and those things are great for your body. They help with flexibility and balance. But again, it just depends on the person. I hope I answered your question there. Yeah, so if there are any other questions, please let me know in that Q&A box. I do have this exercises for osteoarthritis in here because it came up in the survey questions, and I wanted to address it because unfortunately there's not a whole lot I can say to that because of a few things. I don't have enough information on the individual. I don't know where the OA is. And also osteoarthritis and every disease state is so individual to a person that I can't give you a general exercises without going into more detail with the individual. So my recommendation would be with that, if you are interested in some exercises you can do for osteoarthritis, is to speak with a physiotherapist or a personal trainer who can actually work with you and know more about you and give you personalized feedback and information on that. Yeah. Any other questions, comments? The floor is open.
I think, Carlyn, you just did such a spectacular job. That's the problem. And I really want to thank you too, Carlyn, because I think you've made the idea of a personal trainer much more approachable to someone who's been somewhat hesitant to go down that road, for exactly the things that you said, is that we want to be comfortable with the person. I think you've shown us that trainers aren't probably what we really think in our head. Not that there can't be some like that, but you've been so friendly and approachable. I'm sure you're going to make a big difference to people in seeking out that sort of help. So thank you for an excellent presentation.
So I think we might have one question over here, Christine.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Am I online here?
Yeah.
Okay. I was wondering about your stretching, and especially the ones where you're doing the behind the head and that. And I know there's one where you try and connect your hands at your back, right?
Mm-hmm.
I find that like extraordinarily difficult. How do you slowly build up to a point where you're finally being able to stretch that far? Like, is it just repeating, or is there something else that you can do?
Yeah, I would say like that's not necessarily a stretch in and of itself. It can be if you can reach your fingertips. It's more of a measurement point, something we do with functional movement screening. But if that is a goal of yours, things you can do is stretching out the muscles around there. So if this is the movement that you want to do, stretching out in your pecs here, stretching out in your delts, and stretching out your triceps, and also working on your shoulder mobility will help you get into those positions. My shoulder mobility is terrible, so I
find mine is, it's becoming more limited. So I want to keep that going.
Yeah, so those dynamic stretches at the beginning of your workouts, or just incorporating them every day. What I'm doing right now is just moving it around, letting your arms rotate back a little bit, getting a little assistance from a partner, of just getting a little bit of extra rotation in there can keep those joints nice and loose. Of course, doing everything safely. Oh, thanks, Milena.
I did want to add, for those people who are attending tonight who have a bleeding disorder, the chapter has a physical or an adult fitness bursary opportunity. You'll find it under Member Services tab on our website, hemophiliamb.ca. And if you have any questions about it, please contact the office. I'd love to talk to you about it. But what it does is, if you pick a personal trainer like Carlyn, and you introduce them to her or another trainer to Greg at the Health Sciences Center, and then they will discuss your particular physical abilities, especially since if you have a bleeding disorder, there may be things like joints that have been fused, or you may have joint disease, so that the trainer has a full understanding of where your capabilities are. If Greg approves the trainer, and that will also depend on the trainer's certification, if Greg approves the trainer, then the chapter will offer $250 towards that trainer setting up a physical fitness program for you. So it's not ongoing training, it's to do an assessment, set up a program, and then hopefully you'll be able to go back for a few check-ins to make sure that everything is going well. And then from there forward, that the cost for that trainer is on your own. But in developing the program, we have found that sometimes in our community, a person's physical state will change because you might have a new challenge. So if you have a new challenge, maybe a new joint is giving you a problem, then you can reapply for that bursary again in the next calendar year, so that you can get some more advice then how to move forward with your plan with your new challenge in mind. So please have a look under Member Services at hemophiliamb.ca. Feel free to give me a call if you have any questions about how to move forward. I'll be happy to help you with that.
Great. Yeah, and if you are interested in training with me, with my certification, my scope of practice, I am a little limited with online training, but once the University of Manitoba reopens the gym and we're allowed to start training again, that's something that is doable for me. I'm covered under the university, depending on the person. And of course, that's what I keep saying, depending on the person. But I did put my email on the slides, but also Christine and Paulette also have that information. So just send me an email, send me a text, and I will put you on my contact list when things open back up, if that is of interest. And if it doesn't work for us to work together, I have a few other people I can recommend